You cannot hold children accountable for childish behavior. Grabbing the ass is childish behavior. Now, we know he a whole menace to society. Okay, that's what Teddy Atlas probably is. You gonna fire me? You gonna fire me? Then this nigga then robbed and stole his whole life? You gonna fire me? And you know what this nigga capable of? Y'all, let's continue reading. Mike Tyson, the undisputed truth. In the fall of 1981, I got in trouble at Catskill High. One of my teachers, a real ignorant redneck, started arguing with me and threw a book at me. I got up and smacked the shiz out of him in front of all the other students. Pause. I don't want to teach Mike Tyson. Shut the fuck. They suspended me, so Cuss grabbed me and we marched into the school and confronted the principal. Mr. Stickler and the teacher, you would have thought Cuss was Clarence DeRoe, the way he was defending me. You maintain that you merely dropped a book and it hit Mike by accident. Cuss grilled the teacher, but if, as you claim, you dropped the book, how could it have been propelled into the air and into Mike's physical person? It would have harmlessly fallen to the floor without causing any injury to anyone. Cuss was pacing the room, making sudden stops and pointing dramatically at the teacher as if he was the guilty party. They finally compromised and let me stop attending school as long as I got a tutor. Cuss was hurt that I was leaving school. He had planned to throw me a big graduation party. On the way home from the meeting at the high school, I looked over at Cuss. Come on, I'm ready to go to the gym. He just looked back at me. Come on, he said. June of 1982 rolled around and it was time for me to defend my Junior Olympics championship. By now, my reputation had certainly preceded me. Parents pulled their kids out of the tournaments in fear of them fighting me. John Condon, who was part of the Golden Gloves tournament, wouldn't let me compete. I've seen you fight. You're too mean. I can't let you fight these kids. You ripped them apart. My second Junior Olympics started off well. We were back in Colorado, and in my preliminary matches, I knocked out all of my opponents. Then it was time for the finals where I defend my title. Mike, this is the real world. You see all these people, and he pointed to all the ring officials and the reporters and the boxing officials in the arena. When you lose, they don't like you anymore. If you're not spectacular, they don't like you anymore. Everybody used to like me. Believe me, when I was in my 50s, young, beautiful women would chase me all over the place. Now that I'm an old man, no one comes around anymore. 10 minutes before my fight, I had to go out for some air. Teddy went with me. Just relax. Mike, just relax, he said. I lost it. I started crying hysterically. Teddy put his arms around me. When I walked into the ring, my opponent was waiting for me. He was 6'6", white guy named Kelton Brown. I composed myself, summoned up my courage. We went to the center of the ring to get the instructions, and I got so up in his face with my stare that the ref had to push me back and give me a warning before the fight even started. The bell rang, and I charged him. Within a minute, I was giving him such a masterful beating that his corner threw in the towel. I was now a 2-time Junior Olympic champ. Went back home to Brownsville, y'all. Remember all them bullies who used to beat up on him and take his meatballs? He said now those same people that was kicking his ass is now kissing his ass. And he likes it. I had seen my mother a few weeks before. My sister called and she had had some kind of stroke. And her eye on one side of her face was drooping, but I didn't know she had cancer. The only cancer I knew was my astrology sign. I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know it had anything to do with dying. My sister kept telling me, you came here to see mommy. Don't get carried away. You're not here to play. One night, Barkham. Remember, Barkham was the dude that introduced him to crime. The whole street scene had changed since I had lived there. Drugs had come in and people were dying. Then one day, my sister came home and I was hungover. But I heard her key in the door, so I opened it, and as soon as it swung open, pow, she punched me right in my face. Why did you do that? I said. Why didn't you tell me mommy was dead? She screamed. I didn't want to say. I didn't go to the hospital. It was just too painful to see mom, a shell of her old self, because my sister would have killed me. So I said, well, I didn't want you to hurt. I didn't want you to know. I was just too weak to deal with this. My sister was the strongest one in my family. She was good at dealing with tragedy. I couldn't even go down with my sister and witness the body. My cousin Eric went with her. My mom's funeral was pathetic. She had saved up some money for a plot in Linden, New Jersey. There were only 8 of us there. Me, my brother, and sister, my father Jimmy, her boyfriend Eddie, and 3 of my mother's friends. I wore a suit that I had brought with some of the money that I had stolen. She only had a thin cardboard casket. There wasn't enough money for a headstone. After the funeral, I stayed in Brownsville for a few weeks, getting high. One night, I saw my friends who had been playing dice a few nights before. They told me that Barkham had been killed. Damn! Barkham's death had a big impact on me. This was the guy who had first gotten me into robbing, making me his street son. And he had just told me to get out of here and go back with my white family. One day there was a knock on the door, and it was Mrs. Coleman, my social worker. She had come to take my black ass back upstate because I got caught up robbing and stealing. I was supposed to return to Cuss's house 3 days after my mother's funeral. Mrs. Coleman was a nice lady who drove over 2 hours from Catskills to get me. She was very supportive of Cuss and thought that boxing was a positive direction for me. I was still out of it. So I told her that I wasn't going back to Catskill. She informed me that if I wanted to stay in Brooklyn, then she'd have to do some paperwork and the police would pick me up and she'd place me somewhere in New York. I was 16 by then, so I knew what she was saying was bullshit. So there has been times where I have lied to my offenders in order to make them do the right thing. I've told an offender, hey, look, you done told me that you were going to Florida. Take your ass to Florida. But no, I gotta take care of this, Rob. I done already put this paperwork in for you to go to Florida. You better go. It was bullshit. It was all bullshit. Because the dude, he was basically on unsupervised probation. It was a lie. But he did not go to Florida. Baby, 2 months later, he got a murder charge. Fucking around with somebody that was his sister, and the bitch called him, hyped the story up. The dude came down blazing in the club because some security had threw her out the club. The dude came in blazing on behalf of his sister and accidentally killed his sister. Isn't that a mess? If that motherfucker would have went to Florida like he said he was going to, he would not be in jail right now. I was 16 by then, so I knew what she was saying was bullshit. Legally, I didn't have to answer to nobody, but I went back upstate with her. I looked at my apartment and saw how my mother had lived in poverty and chaos, and then thought about the way she died. That changed my whole perspective about how I was going to live my life. It might be short, but I was going to make sure it would be glorious. I did something that made Cuss get rid of Teddy. That's Teddy Atlas, y'all. Look down in the description bar, and I got a DJ Vlad video where Teddy Atlas is talking about the situation also. But I'm getting ready to read you Mike Tyson's version. I did something that made Cuss get rid of Teddy. I had known Teddy's sisters-in-law before Teddy even did. We had all gone to school together and were friends. The girls would always be flirtatious with me, but I never had an actual thing with them. I was hanging out with his 12-year-old sister-in-law one day, and I grabbed her butt. I really didn't mean to do anything evil. I was just playing around, and I grabbed her butt, and I shouldn't have. It was just a stupid thing to do. I didn't think it through. I had no social skills with girls because Cuss kept me in the gym all the time. As soon as I did it, I immediately regretted it. She didn't say anything to me, but I knew it must have made her uncomfortable. Later that evening, my sparring partner drove me to the gym to work out with Teddy. I got out of the car and Teddy was waiting for me outside. He looked angry. "Mike, come here. I want to talk to you," he said. I went over to him and he pulled out a gun and held it to my head. "Mother Hunchy, don't you ever touch my sister-in-law. ... He shot the gun into the air right next to my ear. The sound was so deafening, I thought that he might have actually shot my ear off. And then Teddy ran. I would have too, because the gym was on top of a police station. Whenever Teddy talks about the incident now, he makes it sound like he scared me to shit. The truth was, it wasn't the first time someone had held a gun to my head, but it wasn't like I was saying stuff like, "Come on, shoot me, Mother Hunchy." I was nervous. By the way, it took a while for my hearing to come back, but I just felt that I had effed something up real bad. I really cared about Teddy. I was pissed though, and I might have told some people that I was going to get back at him, but I would never do anything to hurt Teddy. He taught me how to fight. Camille was furious with Teddy. She wanted Cuss to press charges and have him arrested, but Cuss wouldn't do that. He knew that Teddy was on probation for some other issue and that he would have gone right to jail. Teddy and his family eventually moved back to the city. All this was my fault. I'm just sorry all that went down. After Teddy left, I started working with Kevin Rooney, another boxer who Cuss converted into a trainer. Rooney and Teddy were childhood friends, and Teddy had introduced Kevin to Cuss. You can imagine how high the emotions ran when things played out the way they did.
He broke the rules. I put him out of the gym. Just to show him. Just to show him that, yeah, you're this, but you got to be this. You also got to be able to control yourself outside the ring. You also got to be able to, be successful outside the ring. You also got to follow the freaking rules outside the ring. And otherwise, there's, as you should know already, obviously, where we got you from, that otherwise there's repercussions. And I felt as a teacher, Cuss said, "You're a great teacher." Well, I thought part of teaching was that. That you can't complete the job unless you do the full job. And the full job was to try to make him a better person in those areas as well as a better fighter. Yeah, I'm teaching him to slip punches. Yeah, I'm teaching him to, go to the body. Yeah, I'm teaching him to put combinations together. Yeah, I'm teaching him to keep his punches short. But along the line, I was also teaching him that you have to conduct yourself within the realm of everything, of outside the ring. And If you can't be strong outside the ring, it'll show up inside the ring. So I'm doing what, for me, it's easy. Because it's like ABC. It's simple. Go to the gym, teach him how to fight, and make sure that his motor behavior is within a certain boundary, because those are the rules. And it doesn't matter what he could be. It's what the rules are now to be that. And the rules for everyone. I didn't have the pressure Cuz had. Cuz was older. He was getting older. He already had 2 champions. He had heavyweight champ. The clock was ticking. For me, there was no clock. For me, it was just, you do the job, and that's the only way to do it. But it was much harder for Cuz. I didn't know it at the time, but much harder. And he did something he never did in all those years we were together, me and Cuz. We were partners. He went against me. He put Tyson back in the gym. And that's the worst signal you can send to someone who's the teacher and given hard love, right? And all of a sudden, he's the good guy. I'm the bad guy. And now he's from the streets. He's very, very smart in those ways, very instinctive. He's going to test those boundaries. And the next thing you know, he's testing those boundaries. And he only knows one way to test them. And he's with an 11-year-old girl who happens to be in my family. And I don't have to go into what he did or what he said and what he threatened to do and it wasn't something that should be allowed. It's not allowable. And
well, I mean, from what I understand, Tyson at one point said he grabbed the girl's butt, basically.
Yeah, but he said what he was going to do. And beyond that, at another time. And look, I'm not condoning what I did, but I knew what it was leading to if I didn't do something, because he was going to do what he said. He would do what he said. I believed he would. I also believed that if I didn't stop him from doing what he did, I wouldn't be protecting my family.
So this is the deal with that particular piece of DJ Vlad video with Teddy Atlas. I wholeheartedly believe and understand what he's saying, because you cannot go to some people and say, don't do this, don't do that, because they're hard-headed and they got to learn the hard way. They got to look the devil in his face, and the devil got to breathe his fire breath on them before they understand, look, bitch, you going to hell. But I do not agree with an older, 20-something, a later 20, early 30-year-old man pulling a gun on a 15, 16-year-old boy for some silly shit. Teddy is saying that Mike Tyson said that he was going to do something extra to the little girl. He might have been talking trash with the boys, okay? Remember, Mike Tyson is still a virgin. What is he going to do to the little girl except for squeeze her butt harder? He's very awkward. He don't know what he's doing. He's still a virgin. He was talking shit to me because Tyson had so much respect for Teddy Atlas. I believe that if Teddy would have sat him down and was like, hey, look, man, that was inappropriate. And you way too old to be squeezing on a 12-year-old. They were so focused on his physicality, his boxing, that they didn't sit down and talk to him about the birds and the bees. I'm not saying squeezing a little girl ass is correct, but it damn sure didn't merit a grown man pulling a gun on a teenager. Tony Atlas is like, I had to stand up for my family. You could have stood up for your family in a totally different way. Don't pull a gun on a child. And Tony Atlas later said that he apologized, that Mike Tyson apologized to him. You cannot hold children accountable for childish behavior. Grabbing the ass is childish behavior. Now, we know he a whole menace to society. Okay, that's what Teddy Atlas probably is. You gonna fire me? You gonna fire me? Then this nigga then robbed and stole this whole life? You gonna fire me and you know what this nigga capable of? I wish you would. I felt pretty developed by the time I got with Rooney. Normally when guys won tournaments, they'd get choosy about who they'd fight. Not me. I'd fight anybody, anywhere, in their hometown, their backyard. Cuss would say to me, fight them in their living room, and their families could even be the judges. I just wanted to fight, and I wasn't afraid of anything. I would fight in Chicago, Rhode Island, Boston, anywhere. And people would say, that's Tyson. He won the Junior Olympics twice. In December of 1982, I suffered my first loss in a tournament. I was fighting for the U.S. Amateur Championship in Indianapolis, and my opponent was Al Evans. I was 16 then, and he was 27, a hard puncher and a very experienced guy.